The March of the Hamlet City Council. Certainly glad to see everyone here tonight. First order of business is we will have an invocation tonight, and Reverend David Woolsey was not able to be here, so Councilman Cluess has been asked to give our invocation.
Let us pray. Almighty Father in heaven, we thank you for the day that you've given us. We thank you for the beautiful weather, Lord, that we've had the past few days. And Lord, we thank you for the fine city of Hamlet. We thank you for the opportunity to be able to conduct business. And we would ask for your guidance, direction, and help in all the matters that's come before City Council tonight. And Lord, we thank you for each one that's here. We give you the praise, honor, and the glory for all things. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councilman Cluess. Gentlemen, you have before you the minutes of the budget review meeting on January the 15th. What are your wishes on that?
We need to adopt the agenda first.
Where, okay, that's a good idea. You have before you the agenda for tonight, and I would ask that you adopt the agenda. Are there any changes or deletions or anything need to be added to it?
I move we approve it as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we go to the minutes. January 15th budget review meeting.
I make a motion we accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any changes, deletions, comments? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. You also have before you minutes of the regular February 10th, 2015 regular meeting, and you have had passed around to you the minutes of the closed session on that date. What are your wishes on that?
Before we make a motion to approve, I read over it, but I did not sign it. So if you would, let me see that so I can do that.
It went that way.
You still have it down here? I read it, so I'll sign it once we get it.
Okay.
Got it.
Where it went. Here it is.
And
It's coming.
also, Councilman Preston.
Now go down to Councilman Press. Okay, I have a motion on the February 10th meeting.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We come to the item number 5, which is comments from attendees, and this is the time that we give anyone who is here that wishes to do so an opportunity to come up to the podium and talk about anything they want to that's not on the agenda tonight. And I have a note here that Mr. Donovan McGeechee is with us tonight. Are you with us, sir? Okay, he's not. Is there anyone else that has comments for the council tonight? If not, we'll close comments from attendees. Item number 6, at this time we'll call on Chief Waters for recognition of promotions within the Hamlet Police Department.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Thank you, citizens, for attending tonight. It's with great pleasure I announce a promotion to the patrol captain, patrol commander position in Hamlet Police Department. This gentleman has been with the city of Hamlet for 24 years, going on 24 years. He's spent his whole career here in the city of Hamlet and dedicated his professionalism. He's a loyal, dedicated employee. He knows the community, but not only does he know the community knows him. I consider him not only a co-worker, but a friend and a mentor, someone I look up to. And he's someone who I feel like will be in the trenches with me in the heat of the battle when we're out in the field protecting and serving. I look forward to continuing to work with Captain Taylor and moving our police department forward and better serving our citizens and our community for the city of Hamlet. Here's Captain Taylor.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that.
Mayor, if I would just like to congratulations, Stevie. I'm very glad to see this.
And well deserved. Well deserved.
Looking forward to working with you. Thank you. There you go. And item number 7 is consideration of amendments to the Hamlet personnel policy. The city manager has been working hard along with the other city employees on making updates that have been necessary for some time. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to the city manager so he can review these changes and updates.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor and City Council, we have several sections proposed to be changed. The first is the responsibility of department heads. This section states the responsibilities of department heads and cites state law, General Statute 160A-156. Now that is statutory requirements for department heads under mayor-council cities. Years and years ago, Hamlet was a mayor-council city, and when the city changed the form of government to council-manager, this was just sort of overlooked. And so the more appropriate general statute would be 160A-148. The proposed updates include overtime subsections 6 and 7. This is wording that states that the city will pay out all comp time accrued by non-exempt employees. This is required under the Fair Labor Standards Act. And non-exempt employees are all employees who are not department heads or the city manager. Subsection 7 includes wording that instructs employees to use up comp time before vacation time. This will help keep comp time down citywide and is another benefit to employees because it will allow them to save their vacation time. So it's a win-win. We're making some updates to the section regarding the use of city-owned equipment. And this includes new wording that prohibits the use of tobacco products by employees inside city-owned buildings and vehicles. The major concern here is maintaining our assets and preventing damage to vehicles and buildings as a result of tobacco use. It also includes wording that states that employees are expected to use city-owned cell phones and computers and other electronic devices in a professional manner. We have a separate policy for your review later that goes into a more specific detail to those guidelines. Under the compensation for business travel section, we're proposing to update the sections that outlines the guidelines for meal reimbursements paid to employees when they travel to necessary or required training for their position. In the last few years, the IRS has changed the tax exemption requirements for meal reimbursements, and they have put the entire practice, public and private, under more scrutiny. So what we have decided to change is not reimburse meals for single-day trips, but to continue to reimburse meals that occur on multi-day trips and training. And we also, are including wording that just states that all reimbursements employees need to furnish the appropriate bills with detailed description, and that all reimbursements must be authorized by either the finance officer or myself, the city manager. And also that no portion of any meal expense shall be reimbursed if the receipt includes the purchase of alcohol. For example, if an employee goes to training, multi-day long training, at the end of the day they go to dinner and they have they have a glass of wine or something like that, the city is not going to reimburse any receipts with the purchase of alcohol on them. That was just our position from a management standpoint. We're also including additional wording for mileage reimbursements when employees travel in the course of their duties, and that we will compensate at the IRS. We will continue to compensate at the IRS rate. However, mileage reimbursements for the use of personal vehicles will only be compensated if a city-owned vehicle was not available for the use at the time of travel. We're also proposing to change the wording in subsection B of the holiday section to state that in the event a holiday occurs over the weekend, the city will observe the holiday on either the Monday after or the Friday before, with the intent to observe the holiday on the same day as other community agencies. Current policy states that we are to observe it on the Friday before. Current policy states that we're to observe the holiday on the Monday afterwards, but half of the time the school system and other agencies observe the holiday on the Friday before, so we don't want to create a situation where employees will be off one day, but their kids would be off another day, so we are correcting this. Current policy prohibits employees from working on their vacation day. There are times during times of crisis, such as natural disasters like floods or major fires, when employees might want to voluntarily come off of their vacation to help out with major relief efforts. The changes clarifies this and to allow it, and states that an employee may voluntarily do this if they clear it with their supervisor and also update the changes on their timesheet to record the hours that they worked. The proposed changes also removes prior wording that does not allow employees to use accrued time by other employees. The city created a voluntary shared leave program a number of years ago to allow employees to donate sick time to other employees in situations where an employee may have been like in a car wreck or was unexpectedly hospitalized but did not have any accrued sick time to cover the time lost. So this removes the wording and it makes this section consistent with our voluntary shared leave policy. We're also proposing to change the acceptable blood alcohol content for employees while on duty from 0.04 to 0.00. We're not going to allow employees under any impairment of alcohol while on duty. And there are several subsections being changed as a result. We're also including post-accident testing guidelines for alcohol and drugs. We're adding the guidelines, and Gail was able to research policies from several other cities and help us out. This update creates post-accident procedures and instructions to employees for drug testing purposes after vehicle or equipment accidents. There is one change to the draft that was sent out Monday afternoon, and that clarifies that testing will only take place in the event the employee was using city-owned equipment in the course of their duties. That wording wasn't there, and one of our staff members caught that, thankfully, so we could sort of clarify. Common sense would tell you otherwise, but this just, this included wording highlighted is an update from the draft that you were sent yesterday. We're also updating the random testing requirements to only test employees in safety-sensitive positions. This would be police, fire, and CDL operators. It's now against the law for public employers to drug test organization-wide on a random basis. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And here is that section. Yeah, and all other subsections subject to change, not previously mentioned, are changed for the sole purpose of correcting the blood alcohol content level that was mentioned earlier. There and there. I believe that is all. Do you want to comment on the BAC level with the research that you did?
Question came up, what is the acceptable blood alcohol content level? Is there any sort of regulations about that? I'm not aware of any. There are some restrictions, federal law, about testing for people with commercial driver's licenses, but other than that, there aren't. I even emailed Professor Diane Jeffress, who's the employment law expert at the School of Government, and she said not only had she never had that question asked to her before, but she wasn't aware of any restrictions. So the back and forth Marcus and I had on this is it appears if the council wants to lower the limit from 0.4 or 0.04 to 0.00, you can do that. The question I had, and I'm really not qualified to answer this, so I'm going to lean on our law enforcement. I'm going to lean on your expertise. Many of you are or were in law enforcement. If you're at 0.00, does that create the chance of having essentially a false positive? Someone took some cough medicine before they were tested or something like that. Professor Jeffers pointed out that if you're taking prescription medicine, you're supposed to tell the tester that already, so that gets controlled for. But I was a little hesitant about having it be completely zero, because maybe there are times where there's some explanation. I'm comfortable with 0.00, number one, because you can lawfully do it. Number two, I think if someone had a good explanation, they could come in and they could explain that to the manager. And if you've been tested, you have a right to have a retest under state law. So there are ways to address it. But that was the concern I raised, and I don't really have a good answer to it.
I kind of thought the same thing, because I think mouthwash and stuff like that will do it as well.
But that's residual alcohol.
Cough medicine might be an issue. I hadn't
Yeah,
thought about
NyQuil.
that. NyQuil and cough medicine could be an issue there, but mouthwash would be residual.
It'd be gone in 15 minutes.
What would cough syrup or anything like that do to it? The level?
Like
Depends on the
NyQuil,
level of alcohol.
alcohol in it.
Yeah, but on what level?
It wouldn't go. It wouldn't. Well, obviously if they've had too much and they blow, they're impaired.
If they're drunk a bottle of NyQuil,
They're
that may be an
drunk
issue.
off NyQuil. I mean, there's no difference. But if it's a prescribed cough medicine, if they register, they've
And
had
again,
too much.
that's right. Well, but again, I
Too
mean, a
much.
prescription's a little different because there may be a reason, and so anyway, but that was my only concern.
I say leave it at 0.0 and deal with the
Yeah.
situation.
I think
later.
that's
Common
fine,
sense.
Mr.
Yeah,
Martin.
I think
absolutely. And a lot of folks don't realize that rounding goes on past that 0.00. It goes on over to the hundreds, and it only measures up to the hundreds of thousands. So 0.0. I was amazed that 0.04 was on the books, and probably on the books in a lot of places, and the legal limit of drunk is 0.08. So we were allowing people. So
We don't
But
need to
fortunately, it hadn't been
enforce
a, it hadn't been
No,
an
it hadn't
issue where we
been
had
an
to
issue.
call into.
and that's not something that's
Policy.
exclusive, to
Yeah.
us. That's
And this is a little bit of an aside, but also I did want to compliment the staff. I mean, I think they did a great job making a lot of these updates. I particularly like post-accident testing, because one thing a lot of people don't realize is that anytime you do a drug test, it's technically a search under the Fourth Amendment. So there's all kinds of constitutional law that comes into that. So I think what we've got is going to be better for both legal protection and also administering when these things happen.
Now, when we talk about CDLs, they're going to be just like law enforcement, fire and rescue, the random test. We're covered in doing that. On the CDLs, is it everybody that has a CDL or somebody that's exclusively operating a piece of equipment that requires a CDL?
Honestly, Mr. Presser, I'm going to have to go back and look at the federal regulations. I know that there are regulations that say if you have a CDL, you have to be tested. I think it's either there's a set number of random tests per year, or it's on a fixed schedule, and they set that blood alcohol content level. In that case, I mean, we're just preempted. But
It's a percentage of the drivers that have the CDL. I've got a
believe that's
CDL
correct.
license. It's a percentage of the drivers, and it's the responsibility of the organization, business, or city to conduct those random screenings, and you have to do it every quarter.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure
All CDL holders?
all CDL holders are required to do it. I mean, you may miss it through the randomization of the test, but that's something that we have to do. And if we don't do it and have not been doing it, then we're in violation of the DOT laws, and that's a major issue there.
It is. I don't know that that needs to be in the personnel policy, because it's something that's imposed on CDL holders in the city anyway, but you're correct, Mr. McQueen, it is something that we've...
Post-accident where somebody's injured, does it matter if they're law enforcement, police, fire, or CDL?
It
Somebody
does.
driving our van, they can be,
It actually does. Again, because it's a search, what the law says is that if you're in a safety-sensitive position, you have a much lower expectation of privacy. That makes sense. If you're carrying a gun or driving a fire truck or a garbage truck, you need to not be drunk or on drugs.
what about 15 senior citizens?
Well,
That concerns me there. That sort of worries me.
and that's why the guidelines are so specific. That's why it doesn't say if you are in any accident in a city-owned vehicle, you've got to go get a drug test. They put numbers in there so that if you have, suppose you have just a minor ding and it was truly an accident, nobody thinks anybody's intoxicated, you don't have to have, it says done by a secretary or something, not safety sensitive. They don't have to go get a drug test. There's not hard and fast limits about what the amount of car damage is, but that's why in here it's $2,500 damage for someone who's in safety sensitive position, $5,000 for someone who is not. We could kind of tweak those a little bit, but I think you do want to see a higher threshold for someone who's not in safety sensitive position.
We routinely take trips out of town and take seniors to places all over.
Yeah.
And we used to do a lot of that. And I'm just thinking if they get in a wreck out of town somewhere and they're driving and they're responsible for those folks.
Well, and there's two things I'd say to that. Number one, there are some, and I'm trying to find the actual post-accident testing right now. There are some other circumstances. So if it causes bodily injury or fatality, that's an automatic test. If the employer receives a citation from local law enforcement for a moving traffic violation, that's an automatic test. And it goes down the list. The other thing you have to remember is there's always reasonable suspicion. So I don't know how well that works while you're, say driving the seniors out, but, if a department head sees an employee and the employee's behaving really erratically, we actually did this in another town I worked for recently. They could send them in to get a drug test. So there's always that backstop as well.
Okay, so there is a...
Yeah.
And this makes,
Okay, gotcha.
accepting this policy makes it an implied consent, right, as far as the job goes?
You mean consent to being tested?
Yeah, as far as the job goes.
Well, what we have to do is we have to make sure all the employees are aware of the new policies, provisions, and then once they've signed off that they're aware of it, then yes, it is. Now, I would say if we had some really aggressive policy that, I'm making this up, but suppose all employees will be tested once a month or something like that. That's clearly a violation of the Fourth Amendment, and I don't think they could give their consent for that. But to answer your
I'm talking
question,
about
yes,
what we've got in there now.
that's correct.
Is that something that's going to be signed off on by each? And
No, it should have policy revisions also should have to initial or sign it. Or
right.
something.
Familiarize with the policies, and they'll sign that they've read and they are familiar with the policy revisions.
If they refuse termination. I saw
one-
that when we went through.
One other item to add is that for random testing for our safety-sensitive employees, the minimum annual percentage rate set here in our policy is above 25%, but below 50%. And I just wanted to clarify with our attorney if that is appropriate and if that's what council is comfortable with.
I think the DOT is 25%.
Okay. So that would be roughly 1 in 5.
And to answer your question, again, there's no hard and fast rule from a legal perspective, but as far as I can tell, that's consistent with other municipalities too. comfortable with that. I think if
Say
council
it's
wanted
20.
higher or lower,
I'd stay at 25, and if we have an accident or if it's somebody that appears to be needs to be tested, address it as policy dictates.
Just make sure you come up with a tried and true testing procedure to get the folks to go take the test. A true random
Yeah.
generator. And also, if you would go back to the .04 thing, the .04 to .00 on the alcohol, does it specifically say how we're going to be testing that? Is it going to be a blood test? Is it going to be a
Thought it said
swab
breathalyzer
test?
I think it was saliva, is what I read.
Yeah, then they give
That's
breathalyzer
a good
test.
question, and
Because I know we also have access to the portable breath sensors at the police department. I don't know.
They maintain monthly.
I
and
don't know, but if
Each-
you gave one of those, you definitely want to go in for a breathalyzer too.
there
I
may
like
be
saliva.
different instructions for different tests, but at least, well, actually, it says all alcohol tests will be conducted from either saliva, breath, or blood specimen collected on site or at qualified collection site. Ideally, from a management standpoint, I would want to reach out to like a third party, such as the hospital, ask them to have a list of our employees, our current employees subject to the random testing, have them administer that just to ensure,
True random.
true random. Yeah,
Because if you're going to
absolutely.
do this after an accident, I think you would want to check also for drugs,
Yes.
prescription or otherwise. So,
Yeah.
of course, the breath test wouldn't cover that.
And all drug tests would be conducted from urine specimens collected at a qualified collection site. So,
Now,
When's the last time we actually did any random tests? I mean, I know it's probably been a while. Do we have any idea?
well, I know that it was longer than 4.5 months ago.
Now, does that includes the DOT folks as well? The folks with the DOT license?
Someone, I don't know the
I
answer to
understand
that
what-
question.
I've never heard that word in my
In other words, the DOT, the people that have their CDL, they're required by DOT
Yeah,
as, a,
Right.
that's right.
as a specific. Okay, so
Mhm.
they have
Yes.
been doing that. Okay. Great.
We've got to put a line item in our budget. We haven't got one now. It's probably about $100 a test, isn't it?
We actually had personnel review that, and I want to say it was we got a quote from the local hospital, which I think was $25 or $30 per test. So it would be couple $100 per year. We drug tested 25% of our safety sensitive employees. So it wouldn't be a major expense, but it would be something that we would need to forecast for.
Now, are we talking about all of these at one time? I have another question on another part of it.
Likely we would do it randomly,
Spread out
quarterly,
over
or
the year.
twice a year.
No, I'm,
No,
he's talking
I'm
about
talking
making
about
a
all
motion.
the
Policies.
policies here.
Divisions. He's
Oh,
wanting
yeah,
talk
we're
about
going to do
different
them all.
ones.
Another one that you talked about. I have a question about another one.
Oh, okay.
We're going to do that now, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is this, is for, on the agenda, are these items within the personnel policy that I just mentioned, or are you referring to the flower policy, the technology?
No, it's the
and
ones you just-
communication?
and if I-
Ones we just did, we haven't gotten to that.
Okay.
one yet.
All right,
Yeah,
great.
if I looked at it correctly, go to page 9. And my vision might not have got it right, but I'm thinking I did. Yeah, there
Is
you
it
go. Go back
vacation
up.
leave? Okay.
Yeah, go back up. Okay, stop right there. Any employee working the basic work week of 40 hours shall earn vacation leave at the following rates. Then you got the years of service, 1 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 15 to 16 or more. Everybody here does not work the standard 40 hours a week. Some folks, such as the police, and I think your guys, Robert, don't they do 12-hour shifts, or they're 8 now? The folks that do the 12-hour shifts at the police department, their time is earned at it starts out at 12, correct? And then after so many years, it goes to 15 hours, and then it goes to 18 hours. And, okay. I've been talking to some of the other folks years back, and while we're doing this, departments such as the fire department, they work 24 hours. And I don't think they're accruing, in other words, the 8-hour people accrue a day for day.
Mm-hmm.
The police officers on 12-hour shifts accrue 12 hours, which is a day for day.
Mm-hmm.
The fire department guys, they're not accruing a day for day. So whereas a police officer comes in off the street working a 12-hour shift, he gets a day off. Whereas the fire department hires somebody coming in, they get 10 or 12 or 13 hours or something like that. And they're having to work for 3 months to build up the vacation time to take
Mhm.
off one day.
Mhm.
And I know that's something that's been an issue for a while.
It's been brought to my attention, and the personnel policy, just like every other standalone policy that this board adopts, is a living and breathing document, and we can turn around next month and add things to it. And this is actually one of the continuing projects that we're researching to see what the accruement rates for vacation leave are for other cities, and what is appropriate for Hamlet. Because on its face, it does appear that fire personnel who accrue about 10 hours per month accrue less than police.
Yeah. And, I mean, this is me. I'm not really interested in seeing what the other towns are doing. I mean, if we're giving people a day for day, his guys needs a day for day. That's just my opinion. I don't know what anybody else thinks. But
Let me ask you a question on that.
what do you think about that?
This is based, what we're really trying to do is, we're trying to base this on years of service, just like the state does and everybody else.
Right.
If you are a full-time employee, regardless of what kind of shifts you work or anything else, you're going to get so many days per year. Am I correct? Then it doesn't make any difference when during that year you take it. You can take it in advance of the time you've earned it, as far as that goes, as long as you're going to work the rest of the year.
Why is it not that no matter how many 24-hour shifts you work in a month, why is it that you don't get a full day for that month? Like, that should be that way for them, because it's
You get a
scheduled
full day
every
for
day.
every month they work.
In other words, the fire, and this was whenever I was a city employee, and this was whenever I was on council before. I've been hearing this. In other words, if he hires a guy to come in, well, if somebody's been there for 20 years, how many hours are they going to get? 18. And if that person's a 24-hour employee, he has to work a month and a half, 2 months.
He shouldn't, no.
No, I agree.
Well,
That's what I'm saying.
In other words, he should, if he's been a full-time employee for 1 month,
He should
as
get
a
a month.
full-time employee, he gets a day for
He should
it.
get,
Doesn't make any difference how many hours you work.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But that's what's saying, it's not that way.
So in other words, you're agreeing with me.
Yes, sir, I agree
Okay,
with
that's
that.
fine.
I mean,
That's
maybe
what-
what we do is change that from 40 hours to a full-time employee.
Yeah, or
Or
maybe
could we change it
clarify.
from hours
Or
to day?
If you're full-time and you work a month, you get a day. Full-time
Right.
work a month, you get a
Right.
day. After
That's
simple.
After 5 years, it goes.
I didn't know they weren't getting no time.
I didn't either.
In other
Right,
words,
world.
Can it be just broken down into days rather than hours?
in other words, if we made it days,
Well, that's-
They get
It
a
is.
day per month that
They
they're
get
working.
a day per
But ours
month,
is hours.
basically what they get.
Because that's
I said they just
Y'all
get a
get
day
18
per
hours,
month
right?
first.
18
5
hours.
years.
Yeah,
All right,
again,
let's listen to the,
again, this is something we're currently researching, and
okay,
something we'll likely bring to you within
but that's,
the next meeting or in May. Or
that's the way it needs to be done.
yeah. Well, let's try it. Let's do it.
Every
Let's
month they
shoot
work,
for
they get a
next
day
meeting.
for it, through 1 to 5 years.
Let's just shoot for next meeting on that, Marcus, if you would. I mean, you've done a fine job getting all this to this point, and I can honestly say this is great. It's been needed. Been needed for a while. It's like you said, it is a breathing deal, and we need to keep pumping air in it from time to time. We don't need to just let it sit there and die.
I had a question on that same section though, Marcus, number 3, because it's talking about it, and if any employee decides to come off of their vacation, they have to get approval of the supervisor and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Okay, pertaining to Parks and Rec, do we consider an employee, because we have a lot of employees who coach baseball teams, football teams, stuff like that.
This
Their
this would be for
contract.
full-time employees,
Yeah, their
and
contract.
coaches don't would not accrue vacation leave. 'Cause they're
No,
not
what I'm
full-time
talking about, we
employees.
have a full-time employee that's on vacation.
Mhm.
Is he not going to be able to coach his team?
That's volunteer.
That's
No,
volunteer.
Yeah.
okay, so what we're saying then is if an employee's on vacation and he wants to come in and volunteer to pick up trash, he can come volunteer on his vacation time.
I would not have any problems with that. Does Mr. Morphus have any problems with that?
think
I
you'd
don't.
be a-
I mean, we could clarify the language a bit to say,
Huh?
any employee who wish to
That's the same.
voluntarily return to
Can't
work during leave,
Draw
something to
compensation.
clarify. But I mean, the concept I think is fine.
I would think as long as he or she was not coming in and performing the duty that they normally do to get paid for, I think you'd be
Exactly.
okay with that.
Yeah.
They come in to volunteer to do something else, and I think you would be okay.
You don't get to claim it either weekly.
With my guys on vacation, they may be on vacation and still, spend a week at home cleaning the yards or whatever. When we have the fire come in, they would come back, it takes, 15 or 20 people to combat a nice working house fire, a large fire. So, if we weren't letting those guys come back off on their vacation, it would definitely impede us from doing our job.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Are we
get
going to
volunteer rate,
restrict
right?
him
When
from
they get the
coming
volunteer
back?
rate, call out.
Would
When they get the volunteer rate, call out or whatever.
Okay.
Voluntarily return to duty during
They would normally put on their vacation, 24 hours vacation. If they came back for a fire and spent 8 hours at the fire,
Yeah,
then they would actually
they adopt this.
put 8 hours work and 16 hours vacation. And they would deduct the time that they came into work from their vacation time as time worked, and then only claim the vacation time that was later.
Okay, but that's coming back off of vacation with your permission. That's fine.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
fine. You need them. I mean, that's manpower. You need trained, those guys are trained.
Could I offer a clarification on this sentence? How about we just change it to say, any employee wishing to voluntarily return to duty during their vacation period, et cetera, et cetera. The idea is if they're coming back to work during vacation, they got to get their supervisor's approval. And if you all choose to adopt these amendments tonight, you can just say adopt as amended.
Is there anything else on this, these that we've gone over that you're aware of? So the two items that we got this item right here, and they're going to make a change of wording here, and we're going to make a change in wording on the vacation up there, so make sure that any full-time employee gets 1 to 5 years will get 12 days a month, 6 to 10, 15 days a month, 11 to 15 years, 18 days a month, 16 or more, 20 days a month.
That's, what you're amending now is not the vacation. The vacation you're looking over later on to come back to, right?
I think
So
we ought-
we're
try
okay
We
to-
ought to try to resolve this issue.
Well, but
So it's
they've
gonna
got
come back, we're gonna
to
have the
figure
same
it out
thing.
first, because there's so many different hours and departments that do different things. I think that's, isn't that what you're saying? You need to have time to go back and figure all that out?
I don't
Yes,
think
and
so.
we may even consider, instead of having it set at days, we may, be more specific by, clarifying that 40-hour a week employees get a set amount of hours since they work 40 hours a week, and so and change that as well, and set a set amount of hours for police and for fire because they work a different amount of hours, or just to clarify.
Why can't we go ahead and do that tonight? Let them. I mean, we know what it's going to be. It's going to be 24 hours.
We need to resolve this issue.
Is that one we
Well,
can
I'm
do?
fine to resolve it if the
Resolve
staff
the
is
amendment.
ready to do it.
Yeah.
I guess it would take a motion when you move to accept the updates to also include in your motion the wording for the.
So I guess the proposed change language would be any full-time employee shall earn vacation leave at the following rates. And then that
What
way
you
every
probably need to
employee-
do is define shift too, whether it
And-
be shifts, whether it be an 8-hour shift, 12-hour shift, or 24-hour
And
shift.
also, just to clarify in your motion that based on the years of service, employees will accrue vacation time as follows. For example, for entry-level employees or for years of service 1 to 5 years, police will earn 12 hours per month. Fire will earn 24 hours per month, and all other regular 40-hour employees will earn 8 hours per month. That's 1 day. 1 day is 1 day.
Right. And that's all, I mean, we're 40 hours, 12 and 24.
Well, let me just ask this. The police department works 4 12-hour shifts on, 4 12-hour shifts off. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. The fire department works 1 24-hour shift and then 2 days off. That still figures out the same, doesn't it?
It's going to be a little off.
That's one thing that I wanted to research because
The reason I think we need to let
the
him
fire department
research it
employees
Yeah.
do work
next
less
month.
days.
I think
because
it's
This is
easier in
gonna
the
take a
definition
little
to
bit more.
define shifts.
Okay.
And
That's
that when
why
a
I
24-hour
was
shift guy wants to take a day off,
I know we need
you
to
don't burn
correct it.
24 hours of vacation. He burns 8 hours
We need to
of
correct it.
vacation,
Oh.
and it equates to his 24-hour shift.
That's kind of why I said,
You
you
define
know,
it there.
I just feel like this could take a little bit of time, that we could go on and just adopt everything, table that one section, and let you figure it out and bring it back to us. We know it needs to be corrected, but
Mhm.
instead of sitting here for an hour trying to figure it out, I just think it's best for staff and you all to, because like, you know, Mayor said,
Yeah.
you got some that do this, do that, and others do, so just work it out and come back to us.
Okay. Are we good on these that we've done so far now? Is there any other questions on any of this? All right. Rather than go into these other three, in addition with it, let's go ahead and do these that we've got up here. And I believe what I'm asking for is a motion to approve with the exception of the vacation time, which we'll approve at a later date.
Yes, sir. I so move to approve all the sections with the exception of 16-202 vacation leave, and which staff is going to look at and bring back to us next month
And
With the amendment.
with the amendments that
I'll
we
second.
added.
I've got a motion.
Second.
I've got a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Thank you so much. All right, we'll go down to the addition of the appendices down here. We've got a flower policy, a technology policy, and an inclement weather, and all of these are new policies. So we'll let the manager go over these.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. We have a new policy. This flower policy sets guidelines when the city will send flowers to employees in the event an employee experiences a death in the family. This was an informal internal management policy in the past, but we're now bringing it to you and asking you to adopt it. As far as updates on the practice of the policy, we've clarified which relatives, which relatives of employees would be sent flowers in the event of a major hospitalization or death. We're also changing our practice and our policy to state that we will not make monetary contributions to employees, relatives, or charitable organizations on their behalf. We were advised not to do so by the School of Government. It just outlines when the city will send flowers.
Well, let me say this.
Yes, sir.
I think the city should support the businesses in the city limits pertaining to flowers or any other goods, auto parts, caterings, shirts, logos. We all ought to support the people in Hamlet that does this business, including the flowers. There's 2 flower shops in Hamlet, and it ought to be a policy or an unwritten policy that we support those businesses, whether it's alternate, use one this time, use the other one the next time, or whatever they want to do. But we should support the businesses in Hamlet. And that's been a major problem for years and years. And it seems to be maybe getting a little better, but I haven't seen it as good as it should be.
Okay. we did look into the flowers specifically. The last several times that flowers have been purchased in the last 2 or 3 years have been purchased by one of the two flower businesses in Hamlet. But other departments are a little bit different. This would be a separate policy that I would like to work on and get your input and draft up, so that way our staff could have written guidelines on how to operate when we do purchase goods from vendors.
Well, I agree.
I think it's a
city
really good
manager
comment.
should instruct our department heads that when they need something, try to their best to get it from a merchant here in Hamlet.
And I'm going to draft up a policy, and I will reach
That's
out
good.
to all of you guys and also our attorney and bring it to you in April.
That's good.
All right,
Thank
good.
you.
That's what I want to see.
And that's something we can probably talk
Thank
more
you.
about in the budget retreat and the budget meetings that we're going to be having, because that is something that's, just like Chief Martin said, that's something that we really need to try to work on. These folks are in business in our town. These folks are paying taxes, they're keeping the buildings up, and a lot of them keeping the streets and the areas up in front of their businesses. And if we support them, I think that's showing that we're supporting their business just like they're supporting our town. And of course, that doesn't pertain to, of course, anything that would require bids and things of that nature. So, we're required by law to bid out certain things due to the amount, but just like Chief said, we really need to work on that soon.
Mr. Abernathy, go ahead.
I look forward to working on that and getting that to you next month. But as back to the flower policy, this is our guidelines for purchasing flowers. If you have any other questions regarding the logistics of the policy, the draft before you states that we will purchase flowers for immediate family members, which this would include employees, parents, grandparents, siblings, children, brother and sister-in-laws, mother and father-in-laws, and son and daughter-in-laws. And we will not make monetary donations to like a charitable organization in the person's name or to the person themselves, whether it's the employee or the in-laws. The former policy didn't clarify on who were the in-laws. Is this third, fourth cousin twice removed that far down the line, or just sort of kind of what most people would consider immediate family members. I think when we checked, this had only been done once in the past year. This is not something that occurs very often, thankfully.
I like it. I make a motion we accept it as written.
Do we want to do all this at one time?
Let's do all three of them at one time.
We're going to do all three of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do all three of them at one time.
The next one would be the technology and communications policy. This policy is a new proposed policy, and it sets guidelines for employees as to what is appropriate and inappropriate behavior for employees who use city-owned electronic equipment. This is for those who use technology in the course of their duties, and as time goes on, as we get more and further into the future, the use of electronic devices is only going to increase. From cell phones to computers to social media, the policy broadly states that employees are to act in an appropriate and professional manner with electronic equipment as employees. We tried to take a common sense approach to this. I reviewed other policies from other cities. I tailored it the best I could to meet our city's needs. For example, just a few examples. Employees should not speak on behalf of the city unless they're authorized to do so. Employees are not to look at inappropriate websites on duty or spend an excessive amount of time using equipment for personal use during their workday. And I think that most of this is common sense, and we may not have had a need for this policy because we've got really good employees in the past. But as we get further and further into the future, a policy like this in place that just you know, explains to our employees, you know, what is expected of them with the use of social media, with the use of electronic devices, cell phones, pagers, iPads, computers, and the like. This is just a growing need among cities to have a policy like this. Do you have any specific questions?
Yes, sir. What's excessive?
That is a very good question. And for the purposes of this policy, excessive would be whatever interferes with the delivery of services or the employee's daily duties. I could not find, you know, a numeric time. You know, is excessive 5 minutes or is it 30 minutes? And that's something that we could revise in the future, you know, next month or 5 years from now. But go ahead, Mr. Morris.
Word choice. I hear your concern that it creates ambiguity and you don't want to have different results for different employees, but at the same time, I'd be very concerned about having a numeric item. You know, somebody has a family emergency or something and they got to send a bunch of texts. That's one thing. I think it's more now there's some language, so if you have a problem employee, when you're talking with their supervisor can say, you know, you're on Facebook all the time. You know, I saw you sent 30 emails yesterday. And so it at least starts to set a benchmark. I think if we ran into a situation where we had a specific problem with is this excessive or not, then that'd be a good time to bring it back to you, or more likely just run up the chain of command up to the manager. So, but actually, although it seems ambiguous, I actually saw that word and thought it was appropriate.
Couldn't we use the word excessive as determined by the city manager?
I think you could, sir, but honestly, I think that's implied. I mean, he runs personnel for the city. At the end of the day, all personnel decisions, I mean, the buck stops with the manager. So you could put it in there, but I think it's already implied.
Do we have, do all our employees have do we have a dedicated email service that goes through City of Hamlet and everybody issued an email address?
No, at the time we don't, and this is one of our goals, especially from myself, from many staff in the future, and from our IT manager to obtain our own domain, like other cities. In the future, we might, you know, my email address might be my first initial, my last name, at ci.hamlet.us. Some departments have their own domain, and some individuals have their own domain, like their private Yahoo account to manage their city email address. There is a cost attached to that, and that would be a goal sometime in the next 3 to 5 years to obtain our own domain.
We need to do that badly.
Well, all these policy changes and things like that, you
Yeah.
could just send an email out to all employees for them to see it, and then when they come back to work or the next time they're at the office, they sign the revision. That's what we would do. We'd get an email, and you're responsible to read it, and then you can check behind them to see if they did actually open their email.
As a matter of fact,
read it.
I'm glad you brought that up, because under the section that says the following uses of the city's email/internet are strictly prohibited, the draft that was sent out yesterday had actually 3 subsections to that, and the 1 and 2 is actually the first and the third as of yesterday. One of our staff, again, caught this last minute. And the wording actually, and this was wording that was pulled from a policy that I had found from other cities, but the wording did not allow the employee to use their own private email for the city, for email use in their duties. However, we do that now. So in the future, we might want to include that wording, but in the current draft, it's not in there.
I think we need to put that on the front burner.
We do.
To get us a domain and email addresses, because it can help so much with policy changes, with inclement weather, with anything that needs to go out that you need to let everybody know and make them aware of it. It's documented when they get it. It's documented when they open it and they read it. Some places even do their timesheets through email like that, through an additional web page or something along those lines. And that's, we need to go ahead and put that on the front burner if we can. I don't think it'd be a whole lot of money, would it? Setting up a domain name.
Zach, could you give us a ballpark figure? Zach has researched this.
I kind of been looking at, currently we use a lot of our internet through Time Warner Cable. I've talked to them. I've also talked to ESC, and I've talked very briefly with just using Google business emails. And depending on which company you go to, it's somewhere along the lines of $6 to $10 a month per email. What's that?
That's a lot of money. That's $500 a month.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what concerns me, and some of them thinking the same thing I am. But right now, if somebody comes along and they said, I want all the fire chief's emails from January to December relating to so-and-so, how you going to find them? How's he going to find them? How are we going to separate out his personal emails from business emails? Mr. Morphus.
Well, I'm not being flippant here, sir, but you're going to do it because the law says you have to.
I know that. That's what I say. And it's going to create problems for him because if he's using his private email now.
Well, I would just clarify that I suspect that although our employees are using a private account, you know, for example, Hamlet Wastewater Treatment Plant at yahoo.com, it is a private email, but as professionals, they use that email as a professional email account. And if they have a private email account, they probably have a different account as Joe the Plumber at yahoo.com versus, you know.
Well, but even that with it spread out all across the board like that, we're liable to run into a question about some item in city government that relates to more than one supervisor, and then Tammy is going to have to try to run that down.
And if I may, Mr. Bayless, I'm going to pick on council for a minute, not because y'all need to be picked on, but just this is where it happens. It's very common for elected officials to send emails that pertain to city business on a private email account. And I don't think many people think this anymore, but when email was first becoming popular, there was a misconception that if I send it on my private email, it is not a public record.
But it is.
That is not true. And I got to tell you, and I've seen this before, if you get an exhaustive, massive public records request, you know, all emails on this controversial topic y'all been dealing with for 6 months, you just have to spend a lot of staff time sorting through it.
Right.
And honestly, there is no better answer. There's some ways you can address the costs and the fees associated with it, but it is what it is.
Now, see, we actually set up, when we got the iPads, we're all under Gmail accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And we did it based on like first initial, last name, and then the number of the iPad you got. So that's kind of how we all did it, all under Gmail accounts. But still.
And one thing I'll say that's nice about having a set city domain is, I think for employees and for our officials, it's a lot easier to think about public records. You know, I'm doing wastewater, I'm doing fire, whatever. I send it from that Hamlet account.
Well, when you give a directive out, just say it's a group in your department, David, or Chief Waters, when you give it out to just your guys, and they've opened it and read it, there's no question. The only person that's got access to it is that person and he's got his password and he's got his login name. They use them religiously with the state. When I was there, it was, and they'd hold you accountable because of email. It's not like a phone call where you don't know who you talked to. You didn't date the time and what time you made the phone call and what you talked about. The email is there. It's there. So when it comes to employee issues, it's your record keeping.
Red receipt type.
It's red receipt type thing.
Okay.
Any other questions regarding the technology and communication policy? I've got one more to review.
Is there anything in the policy about operating a vehicle while talking on the cell phone?
Currently, I do not believe so, but that can be added in your motion, or it could be added next month.
I thought
We have actually done that. I don't know if it's there, but maybe like some
Yeah,
other stuff, we
we
did
did
it and it
that.
didn't get there. So that's something that we need to.
And if it was voted on several years ago, TC, would staff be allowed to just include that wording into this without having to re-vote on it again next month?
Well, what I would say is if y'all have already voted on it, let's find the minutes and see what was done. And it'd probably be easy enough to say, okay, we've got the policy in place. Now let's just write the wording in, since you're going to have to come back with the changes anyway. You can just then say, here's how we're going to put the language in. I mean, we can certainly check and see if the policy's already there.
Okay. Next one.
What's in there about
Dealing with with inclement weather.
I think we did it between 05 and 09.
This inclement weather policy is new as well, and it establishes guidelines for when delays or closures occur in times of inclement weather or other natural disasters. The policy is actually written exactly as we have addressed this in the past. And here recently, if you can recall the ice storms, this sort of popped in my head that this would be nice to kind of have written down so I would have guidelines. The policy has been reviewed by several staff, including our Public Works Director and also our attorney. What happens in the event that there is potentially a major snowstorm, for example? The Public Works Director makes an assessment of the roads and the overall health of the roads as far as traveling, and makes a recommendation to me, and I make the decision whether or not to delay the opening of City Hall or the early release. And there's also a process here for altering or canceling services, which we would rarely do. And it also allows for the use of supervisors to construct skeleton crews based on a number of guidelines. Maybe a shift has 4 employees, and the department is going to create a skeleton crew of 2 or 3 based on, maybe the distance from City Hall one employee has, or also voluntary willingness to come in. But an employee who's got a 45-minute drive probably should be sent home, and the employee who is 2 or 3 minutes from work would be more readily available to stay on a little bit later if needed. And again, it just outlines the procedure that staff follow, and our responsibilities, and puts our practice on paper, into policy.
So if we close City Hall and close everybody other than some crew guys, right now if they can't come in, they can request to take leave.
Yes. Yeah.
What if they want to come to work but it's closed? What do we do? I want to come to work. I got a 4-wheel drive. I want to come to work, but you're closed. Are we going to take time from them?
I don't believe that the policy addresses that, but my common sense approach was, if I'm going to be here and you want to come in and work and catch up on some things, do that. If you can catch up on it at home on your personal computer, just do that. But that might be something that we might need to revise, and department-wide, that might be a department head call depending on which department it's in. But that's just my approach for City Hall.
I think if they
employees.
can come to work and they want to, we shouldn't.
But what if we're closed? How are we taking that time?
Well, I know, but we wouldn't be closed if somebody could come to work.
If we are canceling,
He makes the determination.
if we are canceling city services, for example, Friday afternoon, and I would love this, we got 30 inches of snow and ice, and we were instructed to stay home and enjoy the hot cocoa and winter weather. And let's say we just canceled garbage services for that particular day. The policy actually allows for paid leave time. The employees are paid as if they were here. So when, in the rare case that city services might be canceled, the employees are not stolen time from them. The time is not stolen from them.
I just didn't know how you were going to address it,
Yeah,
because
okay.
it has to be addressed in some way. It's coming from somewhere. Are we paying it, or are they paying it?
We just pay them for the day anyway.
I mean,
Yeah.
if we got 30 inches, we'd probably be a week.
Oh, yeah. Well, most of them be out there plowing something anyway, won't they?
Yeah. I'm referring to the girls over here,
I
and
know,
the guys
yeah.
and girls in the office.
But I think
Then
that's
what
a
are we
good way
going
to
to do
handle
for
it.
those that are working?
I'm pretty sure that puts that word out.
Give them
Yeah,
administrative
Marcus, that's
leave or
another
something
thing.
like
What about
that.
the
Yeah,
ones that
what
came
about
to
the
work?
ones that come to work? We're paying people for being off.
But if he's closed
Then we
City
got
Hall,
people who are, yeah, he's closed City Hall.
okay, then they don't
Those
need to
people are
come to work.
not working. We're going to pay them because we've closed City Hall.
Right.
But we
But
make
we've
street
got out here working, cleaning our streets, taking care of stuff. What are we going to do for them?
That is a component of policy. Again, in the past, this has all just been sort of pulled out of my pocket as the manager. But that is a component of the policy and procedure that I had not thought of. And that's, if you're comfortable, I can, we can revisit this and we can come back to this next month. If you want to table this particular policy.
I don't
Or
think
go-
we're going to have any inclement weather between now and next month.
Yeah.
I hope not.
Y'all want to just table this one?
No, let's
next
go ahead
month?
and pass it, and
Yeah, I
we'll
say let's
adjust that
pass
as
it, Go
needed.
back and
Yeah, we can
address that.
adjust
Address
it.
that.
We
Okay.
need to address those issues.
Okay.
And if we ever have an additional
I'm
problem,
good
we
with
can
that.
always
I'm good
come
with
back.
changes. Change is good.
We need to, because it's not fair to these people, they're being off, and we're paying them, but then these guys are here working. I just don't feel like that's right.
But I'll say this, if city services are canceled, then really the employee can't work. If we are canceling garbage collection services,
But your street guys,
Yeah, but your
Yeah.
street guys are gonna work. Billy and Public Works, they're gonna be out here.
and that might be,
spraying
hours.
street,
that might be
doing all that
a
stuff.
situation where those employees need to earn comp time.
time and a half.
Or,
Mr. Moore,
Overtime.
would you suggest that we table this one or approve it as is and come back and amend it at a later date? What would you say?
in the past, a lot of folks in a major snowstorm, they may just take off a day later that week. If they work for 36 hours, they literally take 2 days off if it's feasible later on that week. It's very common for our guys to work like a solid day when we're pushing snow, and I commend them.
Yeah, if they come in and
For
work on a day when we got City Hall closed, I don't see any
doing that.
problem giving them another day off for it
I don't know.
later on.
And to answer your question, Mr. McQueen, I'd say if you all are comfortable with the idea of the policy, go ahead and adopt it, and then staff can come back with, okay, here are the changes we're going to make to address these issues.
The reason I say go ahead and do it, I mean,
I think,
it is a policy that would be here,
Mhm.
regardless of whether you didn't think of one scenario or another. I, for one, commend you for seeing the need for the policy and creating the policy. So I think we need to move forward with that, and then we can go back and look at it at a later date.
And the thing I'd add is that what I really like about it is that it gives the manager guidance, because he probably already had the authority to do this, and you do that if you got to close City Hall, but now he's got some guidelines.
And probably
so
would take
I
a
like
little
that.
vicarious liability off of him as well, would it not?
Well, he could certainly say I was following policy. So yeah, I mean in that sense, y'all can't come back later and say, "What in the world were you doing closing City Hall?" Well, it's right here.
Yeah.
So I think that's helpful.
okay. Can I have a motion on these three new policies?
Make a motion, we accept them.
Have a motion to
Second.
accept? I've got a second. Do I have any further comment? If not, all in favor say aye. Opposed?
Can I just say one thing?
You certainly may. Go right ahead.
Marcus, use a southern phrase. Bless your heart. Because
Definitely.
I have called you on the phone to address several things over the past months, and you've come back to me and said, we need a policy for that. And you have sat down and diligently went through the policies that were there, the ones that we have changed, amended, what have you. You have created these new policies, and personally, I just want to say thank you for doing that. I'm sure there's more. I'm sure if you stay up on it like you have been, sooner rather than later, we will be where we need to be. Thank you.
Okay, moving along to new business. First item of business is item number 8, which is number 5 on the enclosures. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, point of clarification, I don't think that we voted on those 3 policies. Did we vote?
Yes, we did.
We had a motion,
okay.
but we didn't vote. So we still have a motion on the floor. We had a discussion.
We voted.
Thought
We
we
voted.
voted.
We voted.
We
We
did vote? Okay, well then what did?
You didn't
what
get
were
me that time.
All
All in favor?
favor?
Believe
I
it
don't know
or
how you missed that. Were y'all talking over there?
not, I'm sure I was.
The audience heard. Okay, moving along to new business. Item number 8. We have before us an ordinance pertaining to the City of Hamlet personnel policy, and apparently we have not had this in place in the past, and it needs to be in the book. Is that correct?
There's kind of 2 technical things. One is there's some case law have your personnel policy formally as part of your code of ordinances, there's an argument that you have created an employment contract, and that can create some rights beyond what is required under North Carolina law. We have some language in the policy that addresses that, so I don't think it's an issue, but I said to Marcus, since we're doing all these updates, let's go ahead and pull out the personnel policy from the code, make it a standalone document. So it does that, and then also it has language in here that lets the city staff, after you've adopted these changes, go ahead and do just typographical things like renumber the policy, add these 3 policies you've adopted as appendices, so it's all in one place. Can't make any substantive changes, but it'll let staff go ahead and reorganize it so that it's a standalone document.
Basically, it protects the city in the event of like a lawsuit pending a contractual thing.
That's exactly right. I mean, it's basically, city employee, there's an employment dispute, and they say, well, you didn't give me my, right to notice in a hearing, which I have because I have an employment contract. And that's the argument they can make. Say, look, we're at will. We have a disciplinary process. We followed it. It's not an ordinance, so it's just a policy, and that's the distinction. You don't see it come up very much anymore, but why not put it in since we're making these other changes?
And if it does, good luck fighting the league, correct?
That's right.
Okay, I'm gonna go over this proposed ordinance. Whereas Hamlet Personnel Policy, Section 16-1 provides the City of Hamlet employees are at will, and that the personnel policies are not a binding contract, but merely a set of guidelines for the implementation of personnel policies. Whereas the City of Hamlet wishes to clarify the personnel policy is not a part of the Hamlet Code of Ordinances and in no way constitutes an employment contract. And whereas the city wishes to update the personnel policy, now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Hamlet, Section 1, Hamlet Code of Ordinances, Chapter 16 is hereby repealed, and the revised City of Hamlet Personnel Policy attached hereto as an Attachment A is adopted as a standalone document. 2, Hamlet Code of Ordinance Chapter 16 shall be reserved for future use. Section 3, the city manager and city clerk and, as necessary, the city attorney are hereby authorized to reformat the personnel policy to make stylistic, typographical, and other related formatting changes to the policy without further approval of the City Council, provided that no substantive changes may be made without the express City Council approval. Section 4, any existing resolution or ordinance in conflict with this ordinance is hereby repealed. Section 5, the ordinance shall become effective upon adoption. The foregoing ordinance having been submitted to a vote, and will have received the following vote, and we'll go from there.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
I want to offer an apology. We just had a little bit of last-minute confusion. That Attachment A are the documents you've already seen tonight, so there's
Yeah.
not anything extra.
Gentlemen, what are your wishes?
So move.
Got a motion?
Second.
And a second? Any further comment? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I would, if possible, if the paper or any of the media outlets need an explanation on this, while the attorney's here, maybe he would be willing to talk to them, because that would be something that we're really not changing a whole lot. We're just moving it from one shelf to the next to protect the city.
That's exactly right.
Okay, thank you. Moving along to item number 9, we're going to open a public hearing on the zoning text amendment for the TheraFirm Knitwright Company. Gail, are you here? Could you give us an explanation on this?
Management from Knitwright approached the city, said they were having some difficulty with businesses, companies, trucking companies, customers finding them. They are located down 177 South, and they're located about 1,300 feet from Highway 177. Our current ordinance allows for a sign for an industry to be located off-premise if it is within 1,000 feet of a major thoroughfare and their property line. Well, as I said, they are 1,300 feet. So we could not allow them to have their sign. So they requested a text amendment asking that we change it from 1,000 lineal feet to 1,300. The planning board met, and Mr. Hartley was there and spoke with them about the concern. And it is the planning board's recommendation, they felt, rather than go to the 1,300 feet, to go ahead and address it for future and go ahead and up it to 1,500 lineal feet. Just realizing that industries now are not located right along your major thoroughfares a lot of times. They are off in your industrial parks. So they felt to be proactive that they would ask that you go ahead and extend it to 1,500 feet. There are size limitations for the sign. It cannot be the size of an on-premise sign, but it does allow for identification purposes for our industries that are located off the major thoroughfares.
And I am hopeful that sometime in the future we can get some type of an industrial sign down there.
I think
showing
that
it.
may be in the works right now.
And that'll be good. We really need to do that. Gentlemen, do you have questions about this?
I don't have any questions, but if no one else does, I move that we approve this.
I do
Well,
have a question.
We've got to close the hearing first. Anyone here that's got comments tonight on it?
Was I reading where it's got to meet all the sign area?
Yes,
and all
it has
that?
restrictions it has to meet. It does have restrictions that it has to meet to be able to go there.
This is in B2, I believe it was. Is that
No,
correct?
this
It's
is
not B2.
No. This is
Okay.
for industrial use only.
Oh, okay.
And they sure do
Industrial
need this
use
sign
only.
down there bad.
Yeah, because I was reading B2, the sign can be 35 feet or
No,
something
I
like that
think you just got
there.
some extra. It actually
Okay.
falls up under section 11, section 12, which is on page 8 down at the bottom, 9.5, section 12. In the event a business is located off a major or minor
Right,
thoroughfare.
okay. And that's
that-
the only section that they was
Yes, it
asking
is
for.
only for the industrial zones for that.
Mr.
Yeah,
Morphus?
and just to clarify, I mean, Ms. Strickland's exactly right. If you flip to the page before, it says special regulations and allowances for highway, commercial, and industrial zones, and then this is one of those.
And they're satisfied with this request. They're from
Oh, they'll be tickled to death.
the action we're going to take.
Well, according to what I read, they're
Yes.
supposed to fix it up real nice and
Yeah.
all that
Yes.
stuff too.
They are.
The property that we recently acquired down near Britt Haven that sits back off and it is adjacent to the railroad, how far is that from 177? Would that 1,500-foot cover?
Jesse, I am pretty sure I looked at that to make sure that in the future, if we needed to, that upping it to the 1,500 would work.
That would cover
I
that.
feel pretty close
Fingers
to sure
crossed
that I
if we
did
get-
that, yeah.
Lucky there?
Yeah,
Okay, if not, we can go back and change it. I just wanted
Right.
to,
okay.
thank you for checking that.
That's- Hopefully that'll be a help with the industrial park sign that we might have to get put down there eventually. Are there any other comments as far as the public hearing at this time? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you, Gail. Appreciate it. At this time, item number 10 is consideration of the zoning text amendment.
Move to approve.
Have a motion from Jonathan,
Second.
second from Tony. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay.
Mayor, could I just clarify now, are we doing the 1,300 as requested?
15,
or the
my motion,
1,500?
yeah, I make motion to
Okay,
approve
that-
1,500.
1,500, okay.
I agree.
We're good with that, okay, 1,500.
That's what's in the ordinance.
Okay. Item number 11, we do have to adopt a statement of consistency for zoning text amendment. We do have that attached as item number 7 in your packet. And what are your wishes on that?
So moved.
Got a motion?
Second.
Tony? Second from Pat. Any further discussion on it? This does say that it'll be 1,500 feet rather than 1,300 feet. So we're good on that. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you. Next item is item number 12, which is a discussion of economic development policy, which you have as item number, enclosure number 8 in your packet. And I will turn this over to the city manager for discussion.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Attracting and attracting and retaining well-paying industrial jobs, it has the deepest impact on our economy. There have been several draft changes to this policy, but it follows the same guidelines that Richmond County uses. They have a specific industrial incentives grant program, and which we have used as well in the past on other projects. In the past, we've just sort of used the same guidelines that the county has, and what this would be doing is adopting our own policy. And adopting the policy will formally state our intentions and transparently clarify Hamlet's incentives to industries that locate or expand operations in Hamlet. Like the Richmond County's policy, it is completely performance-driven. Basically, industries agree to create jobs and investment. They do that, and based on the criteria, Hamlet would then provide investment grants based on the actual taxes that they pay. For example, a industry that comes and invests over $1 million but less than $5 million would get a grant based on their property tax value, the increase of that value, which would be, in that level would be 50% for a 5-year period, and then they would go, and then that would go away. Basically, let's say they paid us $40,000 in property taxes, we would give them a grant for half in that case. And again, we've used this, we have piggybacked on the county's policy for a number of years, and this would be basically adopting our own. In the year 2015, when economic development projects are getting increasingly competitive, the ability for economic developers as well as industry leaders to know exactly where Hamlet stands as far as economic development projects would streamline the process. And most of these projects are fast-tracked. So there's a very short amount of time for economic developers to reach out to city staff and see what we could do. But if they had these rough guidelines of what's adopted by the council already, they could advertise, this is what Hamlet can offer. It makes us more competitive. And ultimately, as far as the logistics of the policy, this authorizes me to share and confirm what incentives we can offer. But ultimately, the council must approve projects on a case-by-case basis. And with this policy, this would make projects consistent based on these guidelines. Do you have any questions?
Questions?
Like it doesn't cost the city any money. It's based off of additional revenue being spent in our town. And the city is already at a disadvantage because of the second tax, as we've heard so many times. This does help us be a little more competitive.
The policy as it reads is only for industrial and manufacturing. We have been researching the idea of coming up with a policy with a different set of guidelines that would be include commercial, heavy, large commercial industries, recruitment and expansion. And in the future, we may, if you're interested, we may pursue that as well.
Thank you.
After the 5 years, it goes back.
Yes.
It's not a gradual back increase. It goes right to the 5 years it starts.
That's right. For example, if Company A either located here in Hamlet or was already here and they are planning to create more jobs and invest further, based on the property tax increase or the valuation, the increase to the valuation, a grant would be provided based on the percentage of that increase. If their property taxes increased by $2 million and they paid us $25,000 in property taxes, we would reimburse, or we would apply, we would offer a grant for 50% of that amount after the fact. So there is no cost to the city as far as appropriations that we would have to, create. We wouldn't have to come up with the money. The money would be given to us by the company, and then we would give them a grant for a percentage of their investment.
We just get the 50 or the 40%.
Yeah, and we would have that percentage for 5 years, and once the period is over, the company would certainly then would still pay the full amount, and the grants would end.
And again, it's an incentive that doesn't cost us anything. It's, if anything, it hopefully will attract somebody, and we're going to get whatever that number is of that 50%. We're going to make that much more, actually. So it is a win-win, and in 5 years it'll go to a full amount. But the end game here is we want jobs. We want jobs and those people shopping and working and hopefully living here in town, which will help us in other ways, so many other ways.
One thing, there is no wording in this policy as it sits, but in the future, with guidance from you, we could work on the necessary wording. But this policy does not include clawbacks, which basically means if a company were to come and they were here for 4 years and then they abruptly left, would we then require them to pay back the grant that we gave them if they did not stay here for a specified time, like that full 5 years or 10 years, which is common in a lot of incentive projects. So I would certainly want your input on whether or not you would like clawback information in the future.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't cost us anything, and the money you spend trying to fight them to get it, they're leaving for a reason. It'd probably be not cost effective to pursue that. But it's something to look at.
If we gave them $500,000 to come here and some kind of incentive, yeah, we'd want to fight to get that back.
Yeah.
Which is not costing us anything.
If we had that kind of money.
That is that you can always have a clawback provision, say in your contract, and then whether council chooses to enforce it or not, you can make it on a case-by-case decision. Right now, what I'd say is, because this is a two-step process, council approves the grant, and then there's actually a contract that city and the industry sign. And we could put that in there. I think our manager's point's well taken. You may or you may not want to have it specifically in there.
Well, I think if you were going to, you would do it. If they leave in 1 year, it's this much, 2 years, 3, and it goes down.
Yeah, but
As we got to the
for
end
the
of it.
purpose of this, I don't know if you want that verbiage in
not
that,
in
because
here.
that may cause some concerns for somebody coming to begin with.
Right.
If we were putting up $500,000 or $1 million of city taxpayers' money,
Or we invested in kind of
That's
services
a-
like water.
right? That's a different scenario rather than when you hear the term grant, you're thinking about our money going to them, but they're actually paying the entire 100% of the taxes, and then we're refunding them back 50, 60, 70, or 85% each year it goes
Essentially,
down. So we're actually making money in this anyway, because if you look at it, minimum property increase. And that's huge, because if an existing facility puts money into an existing property, we're not giving them back the money off of the taxes that they were paying before the actual improvements were made. So the city's not at a loss in any way in that situation.
We might want to explore that if we do have to dig sewer, water lines, streets, curbs, gutters, street lights. That might be an issue if they come to us then. That might be where we want to write a contract or some kind of agreement up. But this right here is not going to cost us one thing. It's good to help. Is this one more thing? Is this something that has to be approved by the state?
No.
No?
It's up to us, completely up to us?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, this is the city. If y'all, I refer y'all to attachment number, attachment A on the back of that. And this is a resolution establishing the City of Hamlet Economic Development Grant Program. Be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Hamlet that the City of Hamlet hereby establishes an economic development grant program, the policy for which is attached here to attachment A. Any existing resolution or ordinance in conflict with this resolution is hereby repealed. This resolution shall become effective upon adoption. What are your wishes, gentlemen?
I make a motion that that we accept the City of Hamlet Economic Development Grant Program.
I second the
Got
chief's
a
motion.
motion, and I have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The next item of business, item number 13, is a resolution a request to permanently close a portion of Skyline Drive, and this is a portion of road that has never been opened for any reason. And Gail, do you have any information on this or request or anything? Okay, do we know who requested, why it's requested, or?
We've done this before.
Ms. Wise, did you want to make a comment on it or anything? You're certainly welcome to.
Not really, but this is property that adjoins my mother's property, and she just recently died last year. And in transferring that deed over, I had to get a survey because the lawyer was having problems with all the little lots there. So in the process of that, my thought was, why don't we see about closing that since we're paying for a survey anyway? So that's kind of where we are on that.
We've done this numerous times.
We have,
you know,
yes.
throughout, but isn't it your or the property owner's responsibility to have it resurveyed? In other words, that piece of land going through there was going to be a city street, now becomes everybody, well,
Yeah, split.
it's going to have to be resurveyed to.
And the surveyor said, well, it's not going to cost that much extra since we're paying him anyway, so that's why
We've done this several
pursuing that.
times on these old alleyways that were never,
Yeah.
they were probably cleared at one point, but they're all grown up now. It's all grown up, isn't it?
Probably been 40 years
Yeah.
since
Yeah.
a garbage truck went through
Nobody
there.
ever
So.
knew that right away was in there unless you looked at a map.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, gentlemen, here's a resolution on this. It's a resolution declaring the intent of the Hamlet City Council to consider closing a portion of Skyline Drive between Rollins Avenue Extension and Highland Avenue Extension. Whereas General Statute 160A-299 authorizes Hamlet City Council to close public streets and alleys, and whereas the Hamlet City Council considers it advisable to conduct a public hearing for the purpose of giving consideration to the closing of the portion of Skyline Drive between Rollins Avenue and Highland Avenue. Now therefore be it resolved by the Hamlet City Council that a meeting will be held at 7 p.m. on the 14th day of April, which will be our next regular council meeting, at Hamlet City Hall to consider a resolution closing the portion of Skyline Drive lying between Rollins Avenue Extension and Highland Avenue Extension. The city clerk is hereby directed to publish this resolution of intent once a week for 4 successive weeks in the Daily Journal or other newspaper of general circulation in the area. The city clerk is further directed to transmit by registered or certified mail to each owner of property abutting upon that portion of said street a copy of this resolution of intent. The city clerk is further directed to cause adequate notices of this resolution of intent and the scheduled public hearing to be posted as required by General Statute 160A-299. And what would be your wishes on this,
So
gentlemen?
moved.
Got a motion from Councilman Pressler, a second from Councilman Bowie. Is there any further discussion on it? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item number 14, adoption of amendments to the retention schedule policy. Tammy, did you want to make comment on this? Gentlemen, have any questions from Tammy, to Tammy on this item?
Some of the things that we're kind of still in the matter of, I guess, over the past couple years, 3 years, do we need to keep anything? Like the dealings with the police department, okay, do we need to keep anything?
So I apologize. As you all already know, State Office of Archives issues a municipal retention schedule, and basically that's the floor. So for every department in the city, it has, you keep this record indefinitely, you keep this record for a year, 3 years, whatever. And that's what city staff has to follow. After that period has expired, you can keep it as long as you want. It's probably good to throw out things you don't need anymore,
Right.
particularly for public records reasons and all that. If you have something that's involving litigation or some other ongoing issue, we retain those documents as long as we need them. So the schedule doesn't obligate us to get rid of anything that we need to keep. It just says what the floor is.
So we have what we need. We're just.
I'm going to give you another lawyerly answer to the best of my knowledge, sir.
I'd ask for a motion on the adoption of the amendments to the retention schedule.
So moved.
Motion from Councilman Bowie.
Second.
Second from Councilman Jesse. And are there any further questions on this or comments? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, thank you. Okay, this is, the next item is item number 15, which is action concerning the interlocal agreement with county in regards to 911 service and dispatch. And we did talk at some length last meeting, and we had Ms. Donna Wright here last week to give us an explanation on it. And at this time, we have before us a copy of the agreement, and they are asking for us to approve this agreement. And comments, gentlemen.
Jesse had showed me something. I might have missed it, Marcus.
Okay.
Where on the committee it says what I have. It says the police chief, which is Chief Waters, the sheriff's office, emergency services 911, and the emergency service director. Now he showed me where you had sent something out where they had Rockingham police chief on there also. Is that correct?
That would be incorrect, but I didn't get a document that stated that, but David or Scott, can you clarify? The meeting it has been so long since staff and I met with Donna Wright. I cannot remember
I thought there would be a representative.
what she stated about the committee. But would the committee be made up of the Rockingham police chief? Okay.
I'm sure that he will be.
We
on.
were not given a document, but that's what we were told
we need
by
to make
Donna
that
Wright.
correction because I think Jesse said he might have got it from her or something.
Yeah, I asked to see one whenever I went over there and talked to him, and it
Okay.
wasn't. And that's what was told.
It's not in ours.
That's what was told to me as well. A representative from each department.
That's
Yeah,
what was told to me
right.
also.
Just for clarification, the agreement that's before you is the same agreement word for word that was presented to Rockingham. Just many of you may be wondering.
Well, we're on there, so that's good.
Yeah, I mean, if they're not on there, and that was a change when, I mean, we're there, and I'm good with
Yeah.
that, so.
Yeah, there.
We don't have any other questions on it. Do I have a motion we go ahead and accept this agreement?
If there's no questions, I make a motion that we enter into
Okay.
this agreement to let the county provide the dispatching.
Okay, and need a second?
I'll second.
it.
All right, I got a second. Do we have any comments at all from fire chief, police chief on this? Any problems, heartburn, headaches? Okay, very good. Have a motion, have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, all in favor.
Just making sure.
Okay, item number 16, consideration of tax releases. You have two documents this time. We've got one for property and one for vehicles. So you got it broken out.
Nothing specific. I think it's just kind of the way it came in.
Okay. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions about tax releases?
I didn't see any problem with it. If there's no questions, I make a motion with.
If not, okay, I've got a motion from Councilman Bowie
Second.
and second from Councilman Pressler. Any further discussion on tax releases? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, all in favor. All right, item number 17 is the appointment to the Hamlet Depot and Museum Boards. We only have one application from Mr. Mac McDougal Jr., who lives on Dixie Trail in Hamlet. And he has requested to get on that board, and the board has asked that we appoint him to that position. What are your wishes?
I make a motion that we appoint McDougal to the board.
Okay, I have a motion.
I'll second that.
I have a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. He's appointed to the board. Now, moving on to other business. We'll go around to the supervisors. Chief Knight, you got anything tonight? Police Chief? Mr. Brown? Okay. Zach? Anything? Maurice? All right, sir, please come up. Thank you. We're glad to have you with us.
Glad to be here. Good evening, everyone I haven't spoken to. Just want to let you know we started our basketball season on the 16th. It's going well. We did have 2 days with the weather, and also Saturday school that we had to make up games, and we'll actually finish making up those games on this Saturday. We'll have a long day Saturday. And also we have baseball registration start up on the 23rd. It'll go through the 10th, and then we'll have late registration from the 13th through the 17th.
What's the ages on baseball again this year? Any changes?
No, sir. It's 5 to 13. 5 to 12, I'm sorry.
5 to 12.
Chuck, you got, thank you. Chuck, you got anything?
Yes, can we get that photo up?
I am working as fast as I can. For someone who just hired you, you are pushy.
Marcus, if you've not noticed, he is a little bit bigger than you are. And Chief Waters won't always be around.
Well, I just want to say I'm happy to be here, Mayor and Council, and a lot of exciting things going on in downtown. We had the new restaurant, Jones on Main, opened on Monday morning, so come down to Main Street and get some lunch or breakfast. The other thing we have going on is the Hometown Showdown. It's a North Carolina League of Municipalities run photo contest, sort of March Madness bracket type of contest, and we've entered this photo from Jimmy McDonald of the depot at Sunset into it. So get on the NC League of Municipalities Facebook page. Also, the local media has been kind enough to write about it. And just click like and help us beat Greenville. I think we're up by 300 votes, 300 likes when I last checked. So keep them coming. That goes through this Friday, I believe. So.
And that's the League of Municipalities?
Yeah, it's on the League of Municipalities webpage. Yeah.
306 to 141.
306 141. Okay, there we go.
And also, if people would actually share that on your Facebook page
Yes.
as well, that's a good way to get it around. I did that today or yesterday.
Yeah, just a good chance to get the word out about Hamlet and show some pride. So.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate what you're doing down there. Ms. Gale, you have anything else? Okay. I missed anybody back there? No. Jill? Gail Wise, you have anything for us tonight from the tax department? Okay. Tammy? Fantastic. Very good. Thank you. Mr. Morphus doesn't have anything.
Nothing further, sir.
City manager.
Well, first of all, Mr. Mayor and City Council, I certainly really appreciate the approval of all of our policy updates. It has been a lot of work, and it is a continuous effort. I also really appreciate your support with the passage of this economic development policy. This is your stance and your support for one of our biggest goals, which is the support of the creation and retention of good quality jobs here in Hamlet. So I really just want to thank you for your support on that. The budget retreat this past weekend went very well, and on behalf of staff and myself, we appreciate the unwavering support for employees and the major needs of each department. I want to thank you for all the input that you have given. Staff and I, it assists us in the direction for next year's budget. Moving forward, our finance director, Jill, and I will be meeting with all of our departments and working closely with them to put together a draft of the budget with the consideration of our capital outlay items and the prioritization that you all designated to them over the weekend. I look forward to updating you at our first work session. Our budget work session will be April 2nd, 2015. And I just wanted to remind that to citizens, anyone who wanted to come and get involved. That will be at City Hall unless we decide to change that and advertise. And that will be from 5:30 to 7 p.m. April 2nd. I have nothing further to report at this time. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Can I make a comment to his?
You sure can. You go right ahead.
You mentioned the budget retreat and the thing that was done. The council did take some official action in that meeting, voting to eliminate the charges and fees for sporting events. And I don't think the public don't know anything about that, but I want to make the public aware that that was done and that there will be the elimination of charges to sporting events.
And just to, Mr. Martin, just to clarify, was that immediately or at the end of this current season?
End of
this current season.
Okay.
At the beginning of the next sporting event.
So that will, we, at the start of baseball, we will not charge entry fees.
Gate fees. That's right.
However, be advised that when we address that, it might be a difference in our registration amount if we see that there's a gap there without having to increase somebody's budget to make the difference.
Another option would to maybe slightly raise the concession costs, if there are any concessions for that sport.
We'll discuss
which
that
is kind
when
of
we get to
optional, but yeah, we can certainly discuss that.
We want to do away with
I think we'll be fine through all sports. I mean, we can make it up through concessions and everywhere else, but we'll address it then.
I think by allowing people to save that $1, $2, $3 at the gate, they'll spend it at the concession stand. We'll make it back.
Okay. Before we get to item 19, while we've still got everybody here, I have a couple of things I have been told that I just need to make sure gets out there, and one of them is both of these deal with our public library, and one of them is that the Hamlet Public Library is having its annual Easter egg hunt. It'll be on Tuesday, March 31st, from 2015, and it'll be for ages 1 through 12. Ages 1 through 12. The time will be at 4 o'clock in the afternoon until all eggs are found. And we hope that everybody will come out and enjoy that. In addition, we're having the annual book sale. And what is the date on that? April 24th and 25th. So we'll announce that again next month. So if you've got books that you need to donate, please take them to the Hamlet Library. They will accept them all. So I wanted to get that out before everybody got gone. Under other business, item number 19 is we need a motion to go into closed session for North Carolina General Statute 143.318.11A5, negotiation of proposed contract. This is the same contract we've been working on for several months. So I will entertain a motion to go into.
I so move to go into a closed session per the general statute you just read off.
Okay. I got a motion. Need a second?
Second.
Got a second from Councilman McQueen. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed?
And we are leaving. You can keep
y'all
your
can stay
seat.
here. We're going to the other conference room. We don't like people having to go out. Time we're back in session, there was no votes taken on anything, and we did discuss contract issue, and didn't take long to do that. At this time, we'll move along to item number 20, which is comments of the council, and we'll start with Councilman Pressler.
Just a couple of things. At one point today, we had Raleigh Street blocked at the rail crossing, Hamlet Avenue blocked at the rail crossing, and Bridges Street was blocked because they were doing some power line work over there near McLaurin Center. Is there any effort for this to be coordinated. Is that not dangerous? I mean, what's your feelings on that?
Lackey Street's closed too.
Freeman Mill Road was closed
Oh,
last
Lord.
week.
It's about a month on Raleigh Street, at least. Okay.
You had to guess, what would you think the response time would be hurt by that? I
Oh,
know
yeah.
that's,
Mhm.
think it would be feasible, worth it. Maybe to stage a unit on the other side of the tracks till this is over with. I mean, just throwing that out there. I mean, you will know better than me, but that is an option. Maybe look at it, maybe stage at the water plant or somewhere. I'm not telling you what to do or anything, but just minutes matter.
Oh, yeah. And my second thing that I wanted to mention is I had the opportunity today or this week to ride over behind Spring Street, Pine Street. I lost my train of thought now. What's the one that goes High Street? Gail, you've done an outstanding job, but my gosh, all you need to do is ride through there and see what we're up against when it comes to homes. You know, and I haven't been through there. I ride through Spring all the time, but I hadn't cut off Spring in a little while, especially back there behind where the Habitat House is, off Raleigh, back down those roads. I'm welcome for any ideas or suggestions for the citizens on a way to. We're doing all we can. We got a $20,000 budget, and sometimes one property can wipe that budget out that we have to go out here. But we need ideas, suggestions. We need to think outside the box. That area is just infested with. I mean, we had a dirty 30. We could have a dirty 1,000, I believe, or a dirty 100 homes that are in disrepair. And you'll go down the street, and there'll be one really nice home that somebody's taking care of. It'll be surrounded by 5 houses that are fallen in or boarded up or half burnt or something like that. And we've made a lot of progress. When you look at the paper or look at the paperwork and our progress sheet that we've made over the years. And Gail, I'm not knocking you, and by no means I know.
She doesn't have the money.
Yeah, I mean it's sad. It's disappointing. It also makes you mad because, you know, most of us take good care of our homes, our properties, and because we want to be happy and have a nice place, but we want our neighbors to feel that way also. But that part of of town, it's almost like a war zone over there. The shapes these houses are and all. And we don't take the best care of the streets over there. Maybe it's not on our priority list, but if you go through there and go down Pine Street every once in a while, it looks like we don't take care of the streets as well as far as picking up limbs and debris and trash and stuff like that. I'm not saying that that's the case, but it just seems that way, and maybe it looks worse because of so many bad properties. But I guarantee you we could identify 45 or 55 structures just in about a square block area there that are in bad shape. Have you been over that way? Have you had a chance to go through there lately? Off Raleigh, back in there. Get one of the guys to take you because it's.
Trying to think. It's been a few.
Yeah. Just, I mean, if you get a chance to go back in there, I
Around
recommend all
Washington
of you.
Street and all back in there.
Yeah, I
Well, I've
recommend
gone.
all of you
I was back there.
Yeah.
to go
I've
back
been
there.
in there, High
You know,
Street.
We've been taking care of a lot of
I've been all
homes,
there.
but when you go back in there, and again, there's some nice old houses that are people have
That's right.
fixed up and painted, but they deserve so much better. And I'm not saying that we can do any more, but I welcome any ideas, anything thinking outside the box. At one time, we thought Habitat would step in and buy the properties if we demolished them, or we can give them to them in that way. Folks, I'm open to anything now because that you go through there a time or two, it takes all the wind out of yourselves for the progress that we've made. And that's it. I appreciate everybody the other day on our budget meetings, our planning sessions that we had. Very good reports, very squared away. We've got a lot of requests coming up that we're going to have to factor in whether or not we're going to be able to purchase, but some of them are priority, and I promise you that we'll do everything to make sure we get the departments everything that they need to function. Thank you.
And just piggybacking off what Pat said, broken windows theory 101 is what he's describing. Not only is the property deteriorating, bringing down property values, but the police chief sure would say that it's a crime issue as well. And it just continues to compound and compound. Like Pat said, there are some things that can be done. Unfortunately, most of the things cost money. The city of North Charleston, South Carolina, or Charleston, South Carolina, one of the two, I'm pretty sure, developed something outside the box where they started taking over these homes and, and instead of demolishing them, selling them to some of their police officers and selling them to some of the city employees, the city was funding grants, low-income loans, in order to allow the person to buy the property and renovate the property. Of course, that's a big city, it's a big budget, but hey, just like he said, think outside the box. You never know, somebody may pop in and have a wonderful idea, and I'm all for trying to do something outside the box with that as well. I would also like to say that the budget meetings, to me, is a huge part of what our job is on this council. Call me crazy or stupid, but I enjoy it because that's our time to interact with the department heads, the manager, to see the true needs of the city, get those needs addressed, and hopefully some wants and some of the things that are not a necessity, some of the quality of life things that we have. We can do some of those as well, but this is my passion. I enjoy this time of the year. Watching the initial process where everybody comes in and give their presentations, watching the council come together and put things in rank order of need as opposed to want. Got a long ways to go, and I hope to be a part of some of these needs taking place. We addressed several things, and I just commend every department head. I heard outstanding presentations by department heads, and I missed a few of the presentations. I've called a couple of the folks and talked to them that I missed. I'm going by some of them and speak to them. I've already went and spoke to Maurice at the Parks and Rec. Some of the things we heard from the department heads were outside the box ideas, and I really appreciate that, the hard work that went into it. It's more than just going and presenting for 30 or 40 or 50 minutes. I mean, y'all put heart and soul in it. Y'all did your due diligence to be the good steward of the city taxpayers' money. We don't have an infinite amount of money. We have a finite amount of money, and we have to make sure we do as much as we can with that and be good stewards of that money. So kudos and hats off to everyone that did that. And that being said, got a few requests. Some of these requests actually came to me during the election last year, and at the time I listened to the folks, and it wasn't something that was on the front burner. Some of the other things we addressed tonight with some of the policies and things were on the front burner. So I went around and talked to a few of the city employees. I spoke to Marcus about this as well. City's definitely changed over the past 12 months. People's left. We brought people in. I think we're moving forward. I think everybody's working good together. I've been asked to fill out the board, and this may be a popular suggestion on one side, and it's going to be a not popular opinion on the other side, but I'm here to just mention this for us to consider and kick around. I've been asked by several in the community and several folks that work for the city that we look at our city seal and possibly either revert back to our previous city seal or even maybe come up with another city seal. And I think I agree with them. I would like to look at that. Some of the issues that I heard was the city seal not my words, but other people's words, cartoonish, circusy, things of that nature. City manager's got the previous city seal hanging in his office. I like that. It's clean. To me, the history of Hamlet, the actual railroad pine tree, much like what's behind us now. Not the exact thing, but I would just throw that out there that I would like to see us at least entertain that as a possibility, and that's something that I think we can bring up maybe in the budget retreats, as if that is something that's done, that would be an expense. Yeah, I mean, you got citizens input. You've got Chuck down there at the depot. I love the concept of you wanting to market what you've got, and I know we're trying to market the depot, but make no mistake about it, make no bones about it, that has been a very divisive issue in this town for dozens of years. And it could be an issue where we could incorporate some of the components of the old, some of the components of the new, or possibly even it could be something that we could come up with something altogether different. But I'm just throwing that out there for the council to actually think about, run it through your heads, give some thought to it. Ask folks, ask some of the people in the community and see what they say, and let's look at that at some point. New police chief comes in. I've seen it here in Rockingham and everywhere else. First thing they do is what, Scott?
Change the color of the car.
Change the color of the car, change the decals on the car, and in some ways, what the citizens see as a new way, in some ways that's the most visible and most vocal.
Well, Jesse, I've heard some of the same comments from different people about the seal. My way of thinking is simply, Hamlet is and always has been a railroad town, and I hope it remains a railroad town. About everybody in this room or in town has been associated with the railroad, whether it's SCL, SAL, or CSX. And nothing depicts Hamlet more than a train on a seal, like that right there. To me, I think that's, I don't know, do we have two seals? I mean, that's one that we have here, and then there's some on trucks, but it's different. I think we'll have one seal and one seal only, and it ought to be that seal right there.
I mean, that's my opinion. That's where I'm coming from with this.
Nothing depicts Hamlet more than a train. And you hear them at night. You hear the whistles at night. If you're close enough, you can hear the trains pulling with massive power. Trains is Hamlet. And I would say that we should go back, if that's what you're saying, is go back to the seal that depicts Hamlet the most, and that's with a train. And if you want to make a motion, let's do it right now.
I think I do. I think I like that seal. That's something to me. I agree with you.
Don't Marcus have the seal in his office?
Yeah, it's hanging on his. Well, it was hanging on the wall.
I've seen it. I like it.
To my knowledge, we've had multiple seals over the years, and I believe that the one behind you might be the original, or maybe one of them at some point. There
not
was
the same as what you've got, but it's
there
very
was.
close.
I actually found the photo in a closet. I just liked it out of
what's on
historical
the
preference.
hotel.
Hung it on the wall.
Yeah.
We'll make a motion. See who wants to go with it right now.
Well,
I'm
I
ready
think
to
the
go.
reason it was changed, and I don't have a problem with changing it, but the reason we changed it was because the trucks would get confused with the county trucks and all this, and somebody see a county truck somewhere and think it's or see our truck somewhere and it'd be a county truck. And they was calling saying this person's here and this person's there.
Yeah.
So my only thing is we can change it, but I think we need to put some type of color in there so we are distinctive above anybody else. I mean, that's the only thing I say.
And that's that's some of the issue that I've heard with that. I like the fact that old seal, as it's not reflective, but I think the police chief, I think everybody at that table right there could attest to the fact that when the light hits it, it was a little more reflective. So I will make a motion that we would go back to the seal in Marcus's
I'll second
office
the motion.
this time.
All right, I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on it? If not, all in favor say aye. Opposed?
Uh,
Okay, I got two
And,
Two
and, for,
opposed.
And the reason
I'll
I
explain-
did is because it's too much like what it was. That's the only reason I disagree with it.
I was getting ready to
Man.
say something, and you went pretty quick on me.
Well, I'm sorry.
Only thing I was thinking along the lines is I don't mind opening that up. That's
It's a
not a
done
bad
deal. Let's go.
idea.
Yeah.
But bring some citizen input, come up with some designs or whatever.
We already got one.
Okay.
We got a nice seal right
That
there.
makes us dictators then.
That's right.
Well, I'm not a dictator. I work for the
Whatever it
citizens.
takes.
I work for the citizens, and nobody has said anything about the seal to me.
We need-
I'd like to
Me.
see citizen input on something. before we do
Done
that.
deal.
That's just-
But is the one you voted
Yeah, but
on,
the
I
costs are expensive.
haven't
No, y'all
seen
already
the one
voted.
he's got in his
It's-
office.
It's three, y'all won. I mean, they won.
It's-
so.
It's the old seal that the new one replaced.
Does it look like this one up here?
So we ain't even looked at the sales. We're voting on
That's
something.
right.
we ain't looked at.
No, I've looked at it.
You have.
I've looked at it.
You have. I'm just, this is sprung on us. I'd like to plan a little bit before we do this kind of thing. That's just me.
Okay.
It's a done
I,
deal.
I,
It's a
I
done
have,
deal. It's done.
Did you have any further comments?
No, that ends my comments.
I have no idea how long it'll take us to replace them. I have no idea how much it would cost.
Work it in.
Is
So
that
I'll
something I was
inform you.
gonna talk about?
Yeah, that's the one. I
Oh,
just
okay.
found it in the back room, and I kind of liked it. Put it on the
I've
wall.
actually talked to Billy at the shop, and we have a good deal of those already on hand. So the cost would not be.
That's a seal right there.
Is that the
That's
color?
Hamlet.
I don't think they had color in it. If they got color,
It's got
that's
color.
fine.
I don't think
I
so.
mean,
I think they're
no,
black
I'm
and white.
saying that one does, but I don't
I think
think
they're
the
black
ones
and
on the
white.
truck did they, Robert?
Well, we'll get them colored.
And we'd like to have them reflective too.
Our letter
Marcus.
need to be changed too.
They need to be reflective.
The
That's what I thought.
That's all right.
the yeah the signs on the vehicles.
Ain't that much.
I would
Some of the
suggest that
signs
y'all
on-
go along
on
with
and
using
around the
up whatever
depot.
you got as far as letterhead.
They probably got enough to last years.
Well, I would use it up. That's
Yeah, I don't
a
have
lot
a
of
problem with
money.
that at all.
Then you're back to 2 cents.
Yeah, I
Okay.
would.
No, don't.
Can I get some input from council? Do you want us to immediately start swapping out the signs on our city vehicles everywhere citywide?
Well, it's been
That will-
voted on and done, yeah.
Mhm.
It has been done that
Okay.
we want to go back to that seal right there, or the
So-
ones they got.
You want us to immediately start
Yeah.
doing that and not wait until it's time to buy new?
We'll phase it in. But yeah, start.
And that means all of our entryways coming into town, I think they got that wholesale on that.
We can phase all that in, one way or the other.
Mr. Close, your turn. You don't have anything, okay.
No,
Mr. Martin?
I didn't say what I had to say.
I don't have anything.
Okay. Mr. Louis?
Oh, excuse me, I did. I'm
Oh,
sorry,
excuse me.
Mayor.
Hold on one
I'm
minute.
sorry, John.
Okay.
I did.
Go ahead.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to do is, during my comments, I would like to recognize Pastor Steve Cruz. And for those who don't know, Pastor Steve was our representative on the hospice board. They've redone the hospice board. When they redone it the first time, Hamlet had a representative on there. We appointed him as our representative. And he's been on that board almost 8 years. And he has been a very good board member. He is coming off of that board, and they have redesigned the board, and we don't have a representative on there, or they're not even offering us that position now, because I asked him if we needed to replace him, and he said, no, they've redone the hospice board. So, but I would like to recognize him for all his hard work. He served as, I think, vice chair or chairman of the board for a little while, and he done a great job. So I really appreciate his hard work and everything that he done while he
And
Wasn't he involved with Backpack for Kids and all that?
yes, sir.
Still is,
He
yeah.
is. He still is.
I'm packing tomorrow.
Yeah, he still is. But he represented Hamlet well on that board. I mean,
Tammy, if you would do him a resolution, I'll be glad to sign
yeah,
it.
everything that they had, he was there, and I mean, he really did represent us well. So I wanted to say thank you to him for what he done. And that's all I have, Mayor. I'm sorry.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Let's see, Mr. Martin, you didn't have anything?
Nothing other than just, for sake of time, I'll just reiterate everything Jason said about the the budget retreats and one thing and another, and department heads, that's all.
Mr. Bowie?
I really don't. I think everybody's kind of covered everything. I do want to say that I think the budget retreat went really well. We department heads put together some really great information, and I know we've got to look at a lot of things, but we'll get there one day at a time. And I hate I had to miss Saturday, but it was for a good reason. Of course, I'm gonna say again while I was not there, because I don't mind. We have a U13, 14-year-old soccer team that they are players for the county. It's the Richmond Rampage team, so they're county team, not just a Hamlet or Rockingham team. And we had a tournament at Myrtle Beach, and we represented Richmond County and Hamlet well with a championship trophy when we came back. So I was very proud of them, and it was kind of worth being there with them to bring that gold home. And again, I do hate I missed Saturday, because that is, that's something that it's my position to be there. But I did want everyone to know why I wasn't. So thanks again for everyone's hard work with that budget retreat and your presentations and all. And I'll be kind of coming around, because I just personally like to know some of your ideas of what mean the most to you before I make my decision and my vote on it. So I'll be getting with you guys and girls. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I guess I could just reiterate what everybody else has said tonight. We were all very impressed with the information that was given to us by all the supervisors. It was very professional. They didn't ask for a lot of stuff that they really couldn't get by without. They probably didn't ask for some stuff that they do need, and they are very conservative because they understand where our budget is. The council did an awesome job. I'm just real pleased with the way everything went. We're doing just a really good job in the city, and the city's going well. We do need to keep in mind a couple of things. That the Thursday morning at 10:30 a.m. is the grand opening of the cafe down on Main Street, and we'd like to have as many people turn out as they could for that grand opening. They've been working on it really hard down there, and we're glad to have them getting open. The Global Packaging, we just can't say enough in the way of thanks to them for their commitment to the city of Hamlet, and it's just fantastic that this is going on, and it's just great that we have got this thing happening in Hamlet. In addition to that, we also can't thank Knit-Right enough for what they do for Hamlet. They chose to be here in Hamlet, and the city manager and I have been down and visited with the manager down there, and they're just excited about being here and appreciate what Hamlet's done for them. So this economic development package is going to be a feather in our cap. I think it's going to mean good things to the city of Hamlet in the future. Again, like I said, let's see, potholes. You probably saw something in the news today about potholes around. The DOT wanted to know about them. But we have potholes on city streets too, and if you know where they are or you see them, please call City Hall and let them know about it, because if we don't, sometimes they get missed. And so we appreciate whatever you do on that as far as giving us a call on it. And other than that, I just appreciate the city manager. I appreciate Mr. Morphus, what he does for us. They've made a big difference in our policies. We're getting them in line with the law the way they should be, and that's great. And I will entertain a motion at this time to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you.